Balancing a chemical equation involves writing numbers in front of chemical symbols or elements so that there are the same number of each element on both sides of the equation. So the example that we're going to be looking at is sodium plus water goes to sodium hydroxide plus hydrogen. This version of the equation is unbalanced because on this side, on the left-hand side, there are 2 hydrogens, but on this side, the right-hand side, there is 1 plus 2 is 3 hydrogens. By writing numbers before the things in the equation, we can balance it. So on this side of the equation, if a 2 were to be put there, we would have 2 times 2 is 4 hydrogens. And on this side of the equation, we have 2 times 1, which is 2, plus 2 is 4 hydrogens. And this equation is balanced, and this equation is unbalanced. So the difference between the unbalanced and the balanced equation is just that we've gone through and we've written these numbers 2 before the things on this side and the sodium hydroxide on this side, so that they have the same number of hydrogens, of sodiums and of oxygen on both sides of the equation. So if we go through and we represent each element as a circle, we've got 1 sodium, we've got H2O, which is 1, 2, 1, 2 hydrogens and oxygen. Sodium hydroxide, which is 1 sodium, 1 oxygen, 1 hydrogen, and H2, which is 2 hydrogens. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that there are the same number of hydrogens on each side. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write the number 2 before there. What you may not do when balancing a chemical equation is you're not allowed to change numbers by putting a 1 there, or changing that to a 3, or changing that to a 1. You can't change the small numbers, but you can change the numbers before the chemicals, before the reactants or the products, and that will therefore increase the number of sodium hydroxides down to 2. So now on this side of the equation we have 1, 2 sodiums, we have 1, 2 oxygens, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens. So because we now have 2 sodiums on this side, we need to make sure there are 2 sodiums on this side, and we do that by writing a 2 before the sodium. So if we check our sodiums, we now have 1, 2 sodiums on this side of the equation. We have 1, 2 sodiums on this side of the equation, so the sodiums are balanced. But if we now go and check our oxygens and our hydrogens, on this side of the equation we have 1 oxygen, and on this side of the equation we have 1, 2 oxygens. On this side of the equation we have 1, 2 hydrogens, but on this side of the equation we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens. So we need to increase the number of oxygens and hydrogens on this side of the equation. We need to make sure there are now 2 oxygens on this side of the equation and 4 hydrogens, and we do that by writing the number 2 before the water. So if we now check what we have 1, 2 sodiums on this side of the equation. We have 1, 2 sodiums on this side of the equation. We have 1, 2 oxygens on this side of the equation. We have 1, 2 oxygens on this side of the equation. And on this side of the equation we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens. And on this side of the equation we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens. So by putting these numbers in, these 2's, we now have a balanced chemical equation.